So our question is what are the top 3 things that federal agencies need to do to ensure that a cloud computing project is successful?
Thanks, Gus. I'll first introduce myself. I am working in the federal sales organization at Hewlett-Packard, focused on helping the teams that are working with government end user customers and the system integrator community to put together cloud solutions. So I am sort of a part of a SWAT team that comes to help them figure out and coordinate resources across HP to put cohesive solutions together. I would say top 3 things that I see, number one, and this outweighs the others by far, is that the biggest roadblock is cultural in some cases and process inside the organization. Figuring out how to take an approach that allows them to gain some of the technology benefits associated with cloud, or what they're seeing the commercial space leverage, can be a challenge with all of the process requirements and security requirements around the way they currently do business. And it's not an easy model to take your existing processes and try and overlay those over something that's being served up to you in a completely new way as a service. So I would say you can do it, but it's more expensive, and in a lot of cases you're going to find that without changing your culture or the way you do business, it's going to be a challenge to do that cost effectively and really leverage a lot of the benefits. From a security perspective, number 2, I would just say, how do we conduct our accreditation, do our compliance, and the kinds of things that we've traditionally done in sort of a box, and overlay that as something which is much more dynamic and is sort of things that are flowing in as services. And number 3, I would say, and it's already been addressed in the previous presentation, is governance. We have organizations right now that are sort of outsourcing pieces, parts, application development, and whether the government organization itself has really adopted cloud services. In many cases, some of these third parties that are doing business for them have. So whether they like it or not, they're leveraging some of these cloud solutions, and they have to figure out a way to get their arms around some of these activities that are going around, put governance around development that may be happening out in Amazon or someplace else, even if their own security requirements are preventing them. And I'm talking about developing new applications and things like that. So those are the top 3 that I'm seeing on a day-to-day basis.
Okay, great. Curtis?
Good morning, Curtis Brazier, VMware. Worked here for 5 years in the federal space, mostly as a technology person, less as a program manager, which is a recent uplift for me. The 3 things that I think are the biggest inhibitors to the adoption of cloud in the federal space are people, process, and technology is one, right? And the technology, I believe, through leaps and bounds over the last year or 2, and what I see projected into 2012, we're going to solve many of the technology problems that you people see today as barriers to that adoption. The people and process side is still up in the air. And around people in process, number 2 comes down to the fact that budgets are not as readily available to get the technologies needed to feel confident in the next few steps you're going to take in this journey, which brings me back to number 3 is security exists quite readily in cloud today, and the dynamic nature of the security that's within it can be controlled down to the smallest minutia. And with that being said, what's still lacking is the governance and visibility to that trust level. Whether it's public provider or whether you're building it yourself in community hybrid cloud architectures, whatever it may be, the dashboard capabilities and the trust to understand that all this dynamic automation that we've created and integration is actually trustworthy is, I think, the last barrier.
Okay, great. Thank you. Scott?
Sure. There's 3 things I think are critical for making a cloud project successful, and it does interrelate to the things. My mic working? There's 3 things I believe are very critical to achieve success. The first is upfront due diligence around the project, and this includes assessing risks, your organization's risk tolerance, and anticipated or expected ROI of the organization. And risks aren't just security risks and things like that, but it also goes back to the cultural risks, organizational behavior, and adoptions issues that you may have within an organization, or if you're have a lot of disparate organizations within your agency across those disparate organizations. The next one would be defining the goals, high-level goals, business goals, and then the objectives that are measurable beneath that and the critical success factors. And this should go back to also addressing the due diligence that you've done. And then the final one is having an active executive sponsor for the project. And from active, I mean somebody that is actively engaged from the project kickoff meetings, that's involved with the due diligence phase, and continue to evangelize the project and its progress throughout the organization, not only internally but also externally. If you look at the visibility that cloud computing has today, the visibility of the cloud first policy and even FedRAMP, that is really due to the evangelism and what Vivek originally did starting several years ago. And without that key component, I don't know if we'd be here today having this same discussion. So even within an agency, that same active executive leadership, I think, is a key part of the success.
Great, thanks. Right. Prem?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Prem Jadvani. I work for GTSI. I'm a senior technologist. I have been with the company 8 years, and my role is to keep up with the new technologies, new trends, and then put together a meaningful solutions and present it to the customers in a way that solves the real business problems, right? So I am involved also in the Tech America State and Local Cloud Commission with a group of lot of different people from different IT companies and OEMs, helping put up some recommendations for the state and local for how they should go to the cloud. So I am actively involved on the cloud technology as well as a lot of other emerging technologies. So for me, or in my opinion, the top 3 things that the federal agencies should be doing to be successful in migrating to cloud, the very first thing is look at the current or look at the workload or look at the applications that you want to migrate to cloud. You saw Jim Sweeney present a chart there. I mean, many times we get into peer pressure and hype around the cloud, like, yeah, we need to move to cloud fast, but the real thing is what should go to cloud and what should not go to cloud. It is equally important to understand that. So if it's a mission critical application, it's a sensitive data, maybe it's good to have it in a private cloud or keep it in the data center. But if it's a standardized application with ubiquitous requirements for many people to be able to access it from across the country or across the world, maybe that's a perfect application or workload you want to move to the cloud, right? Is it processor intensive? What are the security requirements around that application? Is it going to, what's the nature of that application? Is it steady state or it fluctuates in the demand? Right? I mean, all of these are very important considerations, whether you are moving email to the cloud or help desk or financial records, or any of those applications have to be properly evaluated and before you decide what goes to the cloud. That's number 1. Number 2 is many times we see this security as a roadblock, right? We talk about moving to the cloud and people say, oh my God, cloud, there is no security. But in fact, I would argue against it. Cloud is more secure. And you saw Jim present an excellent slide, right? It's a security is a shared responsibility. It is not just up to the cloud provider. Cloud providers are doing their part. As the cloud consumers, are you doing your part, right? At the layer of application or middleware or the guest operating systems, are you doing the right patching? Do you have the right encryption? Do you have the right kind of security measures to protect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of data? And all those technologies are out there today. They are a mature technology. We need to just follow the best practices. And number 3, I would say always go with a maturity model or a roadmap. I'm a big believer in roadmap. Whenever I sit in front of the customers, it's like you need to have a map. Cloud is not a destination, it's a journey. Right? So I have built a 5-step roadmap. You can see we walk with the customer. Where are you with virtualization today? What about consolidation? Have you looked at automation? What processes do you have today? What is automated? What is not automated? How about self-service, metering, chargeback, showback? And then finally, it's all about federation between hybrid cloud, public cloud, and private cloud. right? So I mean, those are the top 3 things I would recommend if you have to be successful in migrating to cloud, have to be kept in mind.